What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Upkeep. It's your boy Nick here. Today I'm going to go over the deck I used in our first Commander Night game, my Obzedat, the Ghost Council. I'm going to go over the deck tech, explain the deck, give you a couple combos, and explain why some cards are in there, and pretty much just go over the whole aspect of the deck. Pretty much the deck comes down to pretty much just very plain simple. Most black and white decks pretty much already know the drill here. It pretty much comes down to life gain for me, life drain for my opponents. The more life I gain, the less life they will have. And that's pretty much the whole premises of the deck. Life gain and drain is the name I gave this deck. So without further ado, let's hop into the deck tech. Alright guys, so what I've gone ahead and done here for you guys is I've separated everything here into piles. We're going to go ahead and go through the creature cards here first. I got the Planeswalker, or not the Planeswalker, I got the Commander over here, which again is Obzedat, the Ghost Council. We have Sauron Markov as a Planeswalker. I'll get more into his tech in the deck as well. Got my pile of artifacts, my pile of enchantments, instances, sorceries, and then the creatures, the meat and potatoes, as you will, of the deck. All right, so first card up here is Tithe Drinker. This is a fun card. It's a 2-drop black creature for 2/1 with lifelink, and it comes with the ability to extort. So whenever I cast a spell, I can pay a white or a black, and I can gain a life, and opponent's going to lose a life. Again, life gain and drain. Cannonball, he's my backup commander. He's a really fun card. When he comes out, whenever an opponent plays a non-creature spell, that player takes 2, and I'll gain 2. Again, life gain and drain. If you're going to have a life gain deck, you got to have a Healer Hawk. It's just a go-to. You got your Soul's Attendant. This is a really fun card. It pairs very well with another quick 1-drop white card in my deck called Soul Warden. They pretty much do the same thing. They're both a 1-drop white for a 1/1, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So they both pretty much, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, I'm going to be constantly gaining life anytime anybody plays a creature card, including myself or my opponents. So it's quick life gain for us right there. Witch of the Moors. She's a really cool, awesome card. She came in the Jumpstart recently. Probably one of the more underrated cards in the deck. She has Death Touch, so you're probably asking, like, why do you have her in here? She doesn't really help me gain life, but whenever I do gain life at the beginning of my end step, on a turn that I gain life, I can have an opponent, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and I can return up to 1 target creature card from my graveyard back to my hand. Very awesome card. One of my favorite cards I have in my deck. It pairs very well with Obzedat, because if you guys don't know what Obzedat does is, when you play him, at the end of my turn, I can exile him, and then at the beginning of my upkeep, he'll return back to the field. So it's going to be a creature that enters the battlefield, and when he re-enters the battlefield, every time he re-enters, I gain 2 life and ping my opponents for 2 life. So pretty much every turn, as long as I have my commander out and I got the witch out, it's going to be automatic. Each opponent's going to sacrifice a creature every turn, every one of my turns, pretty much. Speaker of the Heavens. He's just kind of in here, kind of deck techy. He's got Vigilance, Lifelink. I know he's a 1/1, but I plan on gaining a lot of life, and if I can get my engines going, I can gain quite a bit of life in the deck. And again, it's another real quick 1-drop white, and if I have more than 7 life, more than my max total, so again, in Commander, you start with 40 life. If I'm 47 life or higher, all I gotta do is tap him. I get to create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying, which is again a pretty underrated card. Don't really get that effect off very often, only because I really don't draw into him, but it's a very awesome effect to have. Then you got Blood Artist for obvious reasons. Anytime another creature dies, target player loses life, and I gain a life. Then you got Murderous Rider. Great instant adventure here with a swift end. Destroy anything, including a Planeswalker, or a creature or a Planeswalker, and I lose 2 life. And if me losing life, not really a big deal, especially if I'm gaining a whole bunch of it. Then he also he's a 2/3 with lifelink whenever you bring him out as a creature, so great card. Heliod Sun Crown, obvious reasons. Anytime I gain life, I get to give a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment I control. It's pretty awesome. I know it's kind of weird when it says or enchantment you control, but again, he is a legendary enchantment creature, so I can give a +1 to him as well. Felder Sovereign, pretty obvious reason in here. If I have more than 40 life, I win the game. So again, your starting life total in Commander is 40. So if I can get him out pretty easy or pretty quick, and I'm gaining a bunch of life, it's pretty much an instant target, which if he's out here, he's usually gone immediately, which is kind of a good and a bad thing. If I can bring him out, I can sometimes save an enchantment I don't want destroyed, because he becomes an instant target. So instead of them wanting to kill one of my enchantments or any of my other cards, they'll go after him because they don't want to lose the game, obviously. Eva, Halcyon Witness, lifelink 4/4 for a 6-drop. It's got the ability tap 4 and exchange your life total with her life total. So let's just say I was at 52 life. I tap 4, my life total becomes 4, but then she becomes a 52/52 creature with lifelink. So if I swing and hit with 52, obviously I'll gain that 52 back, and now my life total will be 56. And then you can just continue to keep doing this at that point, because then her life total will continue to stay 52/52 until next time I tap 4, and then it becomes 56/56, and so on and so forth. So quick way to ramp up your life very quickly. Resplendent Mentor. This card has a very awesome ability in my deck. I have the ability to gain instant life with my Famished Paladin. So Famished Paladin's ability is whenever he cannot untap during my untap step. Whenever I gain life, untap Famished Paladin. So again, he's pretty cool out 2-drop. If I have Obzedat out, every time Obzedat comes back in, I'll be able to untap him when I gain that 2 life on my upkeep. Or if I have this card out, the Resplendent Mentor, white creatures I control have tap 1 and you gain a life. So essentially what's happening here is I can tap him to gain a life, right? So tap Famished Paladin, gain a life. When I gain life, he untaps, and I can continuously do that and essentially gain infinite life. It's a really awesome combo. I've only got it popped off one time against my brother in a one-on-one game. But if I could ever get this in game to actually happen, it's a really fun combo to have. And people at that point essentially kind of either forfeit or they are going to have a tough time, because the only way they can really beat you at that point is by dealing commander damage or giving you infect or something along those, or making you deck out, something along those lines. So that's a really fun card, especially if I can gain infinite life and then again have Evra, Halcyon's Witness come in. I lifelink, and I'm just going to keep, massive. I could have a massive creature out on the board. Just swinging for infinite damage every turn. Then we have Indulgence, Patrician. It's a flying with lifelink. Pretty awesome card, 3-drop. We have Aetherios, God of Passage. So anytime any of my creatures, or as long as my devotion to white and black is is less than 7, it isn't a creature. And then whenever another creature I own dies, I return it to my hand unless my target opponent pays 3 life. So every time a creature of mine dies, it goes right back to my hand, which means I can continuously keep playing those creatures unless an opponent will pay 3 life, which is again just taking their life down. Really fun card to have out on the board. This is one of the new cards from the new Zendikar set called Scourge of the Skycleaves. Really fun card. He has a really cool ability. He kicker 4 and a black. Whenever you cast this spell, if it was kicked, each player loses half their life rounded up. So if I have infinite life, I lose half my life rounded up. Technically I would lose infinite life, but infinite is infinite, so you can never really lose the game with infinite life. But even if I'm losing half of my life, let's say I'm at 40, I go down to 20, everybody else is going to lose their life, and at that point they should have a lot of life drained from them, from my deck. And then Scourge of the Skycleaves' power and toughness are each equal to 20 minus the highest life total among players. So if I have the highest life total, his attack and defense would be whatever mine is minus 20. So if I'm at 20, he'd be a 0/0, which would be unfortunate. But if I'm at, again, he'd be infinite, minus 20, which is infinite. So he'd be another big creature like the Halcyon. Vampire Cutthroat, 1-drop black with Skulk, so he can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. And he has lifelink, so really awesome, fun 1 black drop. Blood Aerialist, obvious reasons, flying. Whenever I gain life, it gets a +1/+1 counter on Bloodthirst Aerialist. So if I gain 3 life in 1 turn, it's not going to gain 3 +1/+1 counters, just to kind of ease up that confusion. If I gain 3 life, that's considered 1 life gain product. So it would gain 1 +1/+1 counter, not 3 +1/+1 counters. Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, you gain 1 life. It's almost like Blood Artist again as well. And also, it's like Blood Artist and the Soul Warden put together in 1 card. Cruel Celebrant. Creature Planewalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. It's another Blood Artist. Veto, for obvious reasons, he plays into a bunch of combos in the deck. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen the combo with Veto and really awesome card, one of my favorite enchantments in the deck, Exquisite Blood. So what happens here, it's almost like a instant kill machine gun for all of your opponents. So if I were to gain 1 life, right, whenever an opponent loses life, I gain 1 life, right? So whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So if I have one opponent, if I gain 1 life, I'll tap one opponent for a life. When that opponent loses life, I'll gain that much life. So I'll gain 1, and then they'll continuously bounce off each other and just machine gun everybody off the board for an instant win. Really fun combo. You guys saw it in the game. It's exactly what happened in the game here. Except I had Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Blood. Sanguine Blood is pretty much veto on an enchantment. Whenever I gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So whenever both of these kick off together, that's what happens. It's the exact same combo happening. All right, Zulaport Cutthroat is another the Blood Artist. Draena's Emissary, flying at the beginning of my upkeep. Each opponent will lose 1 life, and I'll gain a life. 3 drop for a 2/2 flyer, and it does as that effect. One of my favorite cards in the deck. It's underrated because it's only a 0/5, but at the beginning of my upkeep, you gain 1 life, which is pretty much, if I have Sanguine Blood or Veto out and Exquisite Blood, you have to get rid of my ability to life gain on the board, or else you're gonna die. And this is one of the cards that pretty much every upkeep, bam, there's a life I gain. One of my favorite cards because it's a 0/5 and I can use it to defend pretty much against anything out there. Awesome card, love it. And then Bloodseeker, I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this, but whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose 1 life. So it's like the opposite of a Soul Warden. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under anybody else's control, that player will lose a life. And if I have Soul Warden now, I'll gain a life and they'll lose a life. Again, life gain and drain. Whole basis of the deck. Alright guys, that was all the creatures. Alright, so I'm going to talk about Sauron here real quick. Sauron has a really awesome ability. If you guys don't know, he's a 6-drop 3 and 3 black. His +2 is Sauron Markov deals 2 damage to target creature or player and you gain 2 life. His -3 is target opponent's life total becomes 10, and then -7 is you counter target player's next turn, or you control, target player's next turn. Really awesome card out. He's almost an instant target every time he does hit the board. But I do have another enchantment. I believe it's an enchantment. Nope, I think it's a sorcery actually. I lied. See if I can find it. Okay, it's actually an instant card, which makes it even better. Alright, so this ability right here, when he comes out, if it is an enchantment. I'm reading different cards backwards here. Sorry guys. So if I have Wound Reflection out, alright, Wound Reflection just came out in Double Masters. At the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. So I did look up the ruling on this, and this does work this way, alright? So let's say you're at 30 life, and I do my -3 on, let's just say Sunny, and he goes from 40 to 10, he would lose, if he's at 30 life and he goes from 30 to 10, he loses 20 life, alright? It would double with Wound Reflection, so he would lose another additional 20 life there at that turn. Again, I looked up the ruling, that is the exact ruling, because technically you are losing life. If you go from a higher life total down to 10, you do lose life. It works the exact same way in the opposite, which is why I pulled out Beacon of Immortality, and I can even pull out this one as well, which would be Boon of Reflection. Alright, both these say if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. And then it says double target player's life total, shuffle Beacon of Immortality into its owner's library. So if I'm at 7 and I go to 10, I gain 3 life, I would have gained 6 life, and then if I would double my life, if I'm at 10, then my life would go back up to 20. So a lot of cool combos with this deck, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much. That's pretty much Sauron there. Pretty much when you bring him out, it's almost an instant -3 loyalty there to use his bring target opponent to 10. It's pretty much almost instant game over for whoever he hits, because that person's life total is usually going to be a lot less than everybody else's at that point in time, unless you hit him late game, which would be unfortunate. All right, Kind of talked about some of these enchantments already. We talked about Boon Reflection and Wound Reflection. We also talked about Sanguine Blood and Exquisite Blood, so I'm not going to really talk too much more about those. Then we just got a couple really cool fun ones in here. One of my other favorite combos I have in here involves my Underworld Dreams and an awesome sorcery that just came out in M21. I don't know if it just came out in M20, but it is a really awesome card called Peer into the Abyss. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this combo as well. So what happens here is whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to that player. And then this would be an instant win combo as well, or instant kill combo. Peer into the Abyss, it's a 7-drop, 4 and 3 black. I think it's the highest CMC I have in my deck. But target player draws cards equal to half of the number of cards in their library and loses half their life rounded up. So when they would lose half their life, like let's say they go from 20, if they're at 20 they would go to 10, and then they would draw half their deck. Every card they draw, they're going to lose life, which means they're most likely going to die unless they have very low a number of cards in their deck, which is usually not the case in Commander because again you have a 100 card deck. So at most you're going to hit them for 50 if you hit this right off the board, which I don't know how you would, especially with the CMCs, because this is 10 CMC together. But the combo is there to essentially knock at least one player off the board in a snap. All right. Then I have this one right here called Pilroy of the Sleepless. Pretty much what it is enchant creature. That creature can't attack or block, and then that creature has the ability at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life. So whoever I put that on, usually it's on somebody's commander, so they can't do commander damage, or just a really big creature that I don't want swinging at me anytime soon. And every time it becomes their turn, they lose a life. Ill-Gotten Inheritance. This is a card I hardly ever play. I hardly ever draw into it. It's a really awesome common card though. But at the beginning of your upkeep, Ill-Gotten Inheritance deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. It also has the ability 5 and a black. Sacrifice Ill-Gotten Inheritance. It deals 4 damage to target opponent and you gain 4 life. So again, it's really nice, just 1-for-1 ping instant damage there. In a black and white deck, the ramp is kind of hard to do, so land tax is a big card, especially even late game, because sometimes you play the majority of your game with maybe 7 to 10 mana, if you're not lucky and drawn into your mana. And then Phyrexian Arena to help me get my draw off, because black and white has not a lot of draw ability to it. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose a life. Especially if I'm gaining life every turn, based off of my Soul Wardens or even my the goat, the Fleece, Nyx Fleece Ram. I gain a life and I would just lose this life to draw an extra card. So essentially I'm just drawing a free card almost every turn. That was the enchantments. Let's go ahead and head into the artifacts. Almright's Archive. If I would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. So if I'm gaining 1 life every turn, I would gain 2 life, and so on and so forth. And then if I would draw a card except the first card I draw each turn, I get to draw an extra card. So again, if I have this card out there, I draw my card for turn, but the card at the beginning of my upkeep, I would draw that card and an extra card if I have those 2 cards out together. Really fun card to have in your deck. Mana Crypt. This is the only deck I run Mana Crypt in. It is a great card, but I don't like it in most of my decks because 9 times out of 10 when I've had it in other decks, I've flipped a coin and killed myself. But the reason why I like it in here, again, I'm gaining a bunch of life. So at the beginning of my upkeep, I can flip a coin. If I lose that flip, Mana Crypt does 3 damage to me. So if I'm gaining a bunch of life every turn, taking that 3 damage usually isn't that big of a deal, and it gives me 2 mana. Staple in Commander decks, Soul Ring. You have a Command Sphere. You can tap it for any color in your commander's mana pool, which is black and white. And then I can sacrifice it to draw a card. Orzhov Signet for some mana ramp. You got Orzhov Locket for some more mana ramp. Arcane Signet, again, another commander staple card. We have Aetherflux Reservoir, Sun Droplet, and Balls of Citadel. These are 3 of my biggest artifacts and 3 of my most loved artifacts in the game. We'll go ahead and start off with Aetherflux Reservoir. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. This does have a cascade effect. So if I cast Sun Droplet, I gain 1 life. If I cast Bolas Citadel in the same turn, that would be my second card, I would gain 2 life. So essentially if we're playing 2 cards, I would have just gained 3 life. It's a really awesome card. I do love the card's ability. And then pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. So again, if I'm gaining a bunch of life Usually if I have my machines or my engine kicking off and I'm just gaining a bunch of life, I do become an instant target because my life total starts getting really high, and people are just like, hey, even though he doesn't have a lot of stuff on the board, his life's getting super high and ours are getting super low. He's the new target, even if my board is pretty much barren. That does happen a lot with this deck, but that's, you know, one of the risks you take with this deck for sure. But if I do ever have the ability to play this card and I do have 50 life, I just pay 50 life and I essentially could wipe somebody off the board of the table, and they'd be gone. It's like an instant kill combo, like the Peer into the Abyss sometimes. Sun Droplet, probably one of my other favorite cards in this deck. It's a 2-drop artifact. Really fun artifact. Whenever I'm dealt damage, I put that many charge counters on Sun Droplet, and then at the beginning of each player's upkeep, so not just my upkeeps, but any player's upkeep, I can remove one of the Sun Drop counter or the charge counters from Sun Droplet, and if I do, I would gain 1 life. You guys saw this card in effect during the gameplay. It was actually the 1 life I needed on Sunny's turn to go ahead and kick off my machine gun with Sanguine Bond and or Sanguine Blood and Exquisite Blood to win the game. And then Bolas the Citadel, legendary artifact. Oh, and by the way, it does say at the beginning of each player's upkeep, you may. So if you notice, if you go back and watch the video, I didn't activate it on my turn. I activated it on, I believe it was Sunny's first turn, Rose's turn, Joe's turn, and then I skipped my turn to gain the 1 I had left on it, and I waited to get to Sunny's turn to go ahead and kick off that machine gun, because I had to still play 1 other piece, that machine gun effect. Once I played that, as you saw, I immediately passed my turn. Sunny took his turn, he drew his card. On his upkeep, I Sun Droplet, gained that life, and machine gunned everybody and won the game. Alright, Bolas the Citadel, 6-drop, 3 and 3 black. Really fun card. If you guys don't know about this card, I highly recommend if you run black or any kind of life gain deck and you have black in your pool, I highly recommend it. You may look at the top card of your deck or your library at any time, which is a really awesome effect to have, just off the bat. And then you may play the top card of your library if you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its CMC, converted mana cost, rather than pay its mana cost. So let's just say, for example, I look at the top card of my deck and it's a Sauron, right? I can pay 6 life, 3 and 3 black, which would be a total of 6. Pay 6 life, bring out Sauron to the field on my turn instead of paying my mana to play cards. So I essentially can keep my mana up to hit other combo pieces. For example, bring out Sauron, pay the 6, and then hit him with the have wound reflection out, and then that way there, somebody's most likely going to die in that turn. If I can get that combo off. But really awesome artifact, one of my favorites in the deck and in the game itself. But that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to instants. I've already kind of talked about Beacon of Immortality. I play it, I double target player's life total, and I shuffle it back into my library, which is a really awesome effect. It's a 6-drop though. Erebos' Intervention, X and black. So X can equal whatever I choose to tap for it. And then target creature gets -X until end of turn, and you gain X life, or exile up to X target card from graveyards. Both of those are good. I usually only use the first one because I gain X life at the end of killing a creature, which is really cool. Heliod's Intervention, X and 2 white, choose 1, destroy X target artifacts and enchantments. That is highly underrated. Most people think I just have it for the second effect, which is target player gains twice X life. 9 times out of 10, that is the effect I'm using, but that destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments comes in pretty clutch, especially when I want to essentially board wipe, pseudo board wipe, and get rid of all my opponents, soul rings and arcane signets and just, enchantments out there that are just messing me up or not letting me play my game very well. Then we have Mortify, which is let's go ahead and just destroy target creature or enchantment. Nothing to scoff at there. It's a really awesome card for 3-drop. White staple for sure. Swords to Plowshare, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. I don't really have a problem with my opponent gaining life because I'm just going to burn them pretty quickly. So if I kill a 6 CMC card, then they're gonna go. They're probably gonna gain some pretty decent life. Usually it's right around 4 or 5. Usually nothing really too much higher than that. If it is, again, I have no problem doing it because I'm just gonna keep burning them with my cards. And then the other one I have here is Invoke the Divine. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, you gain 4 life. White, one of the big things I love about white is its artifact and enchantment destruction, and it just gives me life on top of it, so what's not to like about the card? Alright, and then getting into the final portion of the deck here is going to be Peer into the Abyss, or sorceries here. So Peer into the Abyss, we've already kind of talked about here. Fumigate, really awesome board wipe. Destroy all creatures, you gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. So let's just say somebody like Sunny, he loves running those token decks. If he has 20 tokens out, I'm going to destroy all creatures and I'm going to gain at least 20 life based off of his tokens. And that's not including all the other creatures on everybody else's boards. If you guys saw episode 2 when Rose had her Scoot Swarm just kicking off, she had 148 at one point. If I would have had this card or was playing this deck, I could have gained 148 life right there. Really awesome card. Love this board wipe. Exsanguinate. Each opponent loses X life and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So let's just say I do 10 damage to each opponent. Each opponent is going to lose 10, and then I'll gain 30. And then if I have Boon Reflection out, I'll double that. So it's just a really fun card to have in this deck. Grim Tutor. Who doesn't love tutoring out for cards? Reason why I run this one is that you do lose 3 life for searching your library for a card. But again, with me gaining so much life, I'm not afraid to lose that life to search for something. And I can usually search out like a board wipe or Sauron or something I need to end somebody's game quickly. This is kind of like a Fumigate. It's a 4-drop. Destroy all creatures, you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control that were destroyed this way. So instead of it being all creatures, it's just my creatures. Usually I only get maybe about 1 or 2 life from this, but it is a good way to reset the board and kind of get myself back in the game if I'm falling too far behind. Diabolic Tutor. The only reason why I run Diabolic Tutor in this one is because I do only have 1 Demonic Tutor, and that is in what I consider my best deck, which is my Golos deck. I bounce it back between Golos and Mind Razor because I only have the 1. I could bounce it back in between all 3 of my decks, but this is a good card. 4-drop. You search your library for any card and put that card into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Excuse me. Idyllic Tutor, another tutor card here. This one lets me search my library for any enchantment card. I reveal it and put it into my hand and shuffle my library, so it lets me get out the the enchantments I need, whether it be a Phyrexian Arena, a Wound Reflection, usually Exquisite Blood or Sanguine Blood. But yeah, so those are. It helps me search out the enchantments I need. Also, it can search out some of my enchantment creatures like Nyxfloose Ram, Heliod, and creatures like that. Aetherios. Toxic Deluge, why not? Another board wipe. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. So again, with me gaining so much life, I really don't have a problem paying most of the time for some of my stuff. And if there's a big 10/10 creature out there, I'll go ahead and pay the 10 life, and all creatures on the board get -X until end of turn, which essentially would kill them. The cool thing about this too is if a creature does have indestructible, and they have -X, let's say it's an indestructible creature with 5 life, and I hit it with -5 for its toughness. If it says until end of turn, so if that creature moves through multiple phases with -X life, -5 life, and it's at 0 or less, that creature will die because it can't live through multiple phases without going back. So usually what happens is if you swing on your attack phase on an indestructible or an indestructible card, that card takes that damage, goes to 0 or below 0 during that combat phase, but once that combat phase is over, it'll kick back to its original toughness, and that's why it doesn't die as indestructible, because it goes back and it refreshes at the main phase 2, which is this one, carries it through all the way to end turn, so it kills indestructible cards. Then we have Thracias Grasp. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, and I gain life equal to its converted mana cost. It's almost like the other white card I just talked about a little bit ago. I can't remember what the heck it was called. It was one of the instants. It is going to be the Invoke the Divine. Almost the exact same. Destroy target artifact, enchant, I gain 4 life. This one I do it and I gain life equal to its CMC. Really awesome card. And then the final card here to talk about today, guys, in the deck is Black Sun Zenith. Again, this one puts X -1/-1 counters on each creature, and then I get to shuffle it back in, shuffle Black Sun Zenith back into my library. So I pay X and 2 black. So again, if you have another creature out there, These are counters, so these stay on the creatures continuously. So again, if it is indestructible, it puts a -1/-1 counter on it for whatever I pay for X. So if it's at 5/5, I tap 5 and 2 black, and then I put 5 -1/-1 counters on each creature on the battlefield. Indestructible. Again, it can't have 0 through multiple phases, so those creatures would die at that point in time as well. Other than that, guys, that is the deck. I do have, the usual mana, a bunch of white and blacks, command towers, a couple of the Orzhov double land cards. Not really many, fun jank cards. I don't run Bojuka Bog in here for whatever reason. I don't run, a lot of those, other alternate black tapping cards or white tapping cards. But that's pretty much the deck, guys. Thank you guys for joining. Give a thumbs up. Hit the like button, subscribe, and if you'd like to see more of these deck tacks and deck recipes or combinations for the decks that we have in our games and our matches, go ahead and let us know. I believe the next one we're going to try and do is Rose's Omnath deck, since that's a deck that just won the previous episode. But without further ado, again, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, share the video, and we hope to see you again on the next one. Bye.